We have four. The first one would be Patty Kay, Rosa Higuera, Lisa Farrell, and then Emily Richmond.
Good evening, board. I had a question, comment about, and since it's on the agenda, hopefully it can be answered. 5B, approval of conference attendance. To be transparent, as we spoke before, I would like to see on the agenda any projected conferences and who will be attending them. I suggest that before you vote on approval, that would be itemized so it would be more available for everyone to know, since we're paying the fees as taxpayers. 5C to 5G, regarding agreements with Wellness Together, National Conflict Resolution Center, Palomar Family Counseling, Cook Center, and Transformational Counseling. I'd like to ask the board how you can vote to approve these agreements that are suggested, I assume, by staff, if you weren't given any stats on the number of students that have been helped and the outcomes of this. In other words, most of these agreements that you're voting on tonight have already been working in the district, and so you should, I would think, want to know the results of the money, our taxpayer money that was spent, before you vote to approve them again for another year or two. Will you be able to answer me on anything like that? Any of the information on any of these companies? No stats, no information, you're just going to vote on them? Okay. On the justification statement on some of these agreements, it simply states that it would not be good to change the agencies, but it gives no indication of the performance, and I don't think that's really justification for just voting them back in, personally. On number BB, you are hiring a second social worker in the DEI department, correct? And to what end will she be used, Mr. Sparks?
This is a comment time, sorry.
Well, but it is on agenda, so I know you're able to answer. Okay. Is she Spanish speaking? Any comment on that? No. Thank you.
You can attribute that at any point in time if you feel comfortable with it. Go ahead, hold on one second.
We're asking staff to answer. I'm assuming that we can ask staff to answer some of these questions. Would you rather do it up here in a one-on-one like that, or afterwards when we're in a discussion on it?
I would say let's do it after.
Okay,
Is that possible?
we have interest in responding and or asking our staff the questions that you raised for us to consider. If that has an interest to us, we will ask staff to clarify. Otherwise, assume we're comfortable with the staff recommendations and the reports that we have.
Sorry, go ahead.
All right, so I would like to talk about the approval of the Wellness Together and the Family Counseling Services. Why don't we have wellness clinics? What is a wellness clinic? Well, I guess a wellness clinic is where you can take a 12-year-old and they can get an abortion or sex change operation without parental consent or even the knowledge. Let's follow this line, the transgender conveyor belt. The schools teach the children to question their gender. And then the teachers affirm a child's new gender identity and hide it from the parents. And then the counselors that are taxpayer-funded money, they support a new gender identity. Again, all hidden from the parents. Parents must go along or they risk losing custody. Foster parents must support a gender transition as well. Insurance companies must pay for a gender transition. Once again, that means taxpayer-funded money. Doctors must perform a gender transition. And guess who ultimately pays the price? Our precious, beautiful, irreplaceable children. The children are our future. And if you guys are hell-bent on destroying our children, we have no other choice but to pluck each one off of you out of office. Jordy Sparks, Donald Benz, Ann Gibbons, Eleanor Evans, Julie Vitale, Raquel Alvarez, Stacey Degan, Mike Bussey, Mercedes Lovey, Todd McAteer, and Andy Norman. Thank you for looking up. Actually, that's good. The Stop the Hate grant, that's amazing. State taxpayer-funded money again. And you told us who the players are, the LGBT Center and the social justice. What is social justice, by the way? It is a way to teach our kids to hate the color of their skin, their neighbor, teach racial hatred, hatred towards your country, and turn kids into little radical activists. All of this stuff does not belong in schools. We need to get back to teaching our kids academics. When did you guys stop caring? Some of you, like Eleanor and Mike, you've been on the board for 15 years. But you're not a voice for the children. You're not a voice for the community. Shame on all of you. Shame on all of you. We will replace you. Vote for Rosie Higuera, November 5th. RosieForSchools.com. Thank you so much.
Or I just want to clarify, we don't have any clinics on campus, nor do we perform any surgeries.
Abortion, no gender transition, surgery on campus. Amazing.
Good evening, I'm Lisa Farrell, Chair of our ODA LCAP committee. I want to take a second and say thank you to Dr. Smedley for taking on this monumental task and keeping the lines of communication open with me. Sorry, I usually have what I want to say all written out by the summer. I'm a teacher, my mind is on my 3-year-old who just discovered yesterday that swimming means you have to get your face wet. And I'm not sure she's going to get in the pool during her lessons right now. But I'm also thinking about my 3-year-old in respect of what is Oceanside going to look like in a couple of years when it's time for her to come to school here. I can tell you what my class is going to look like next year. I'm going to have 28 plus second graders in the class that should have about 24. I might have a combo. And I won't have intervention teachers to support the newcomers that I'll have. And when I left, we had several sped positions unfilled. So teachers at sites are begging for support, begging for help with large classes, begging for help with behaviors, begging for help supporting our students with a variety of needs. And honestly, through this LCAP process this year, I felt like district admin doesn't want teacher input. It was really difficult getting meetings calendared and having time for meaningful input, more so than any of the 7 or 8 years I've been doing this. At the forefront of our work on LCAP is student achievement. We all want students to be successful, parents, teachers, school board members alike. We have a duty to our students. Right now, we're continuing many of the good things that came out of LCAP. Elementary APs, full-time elementary counselors, counseling services, intervention teachers. They've kept us afloat this year and have been duties when we didn't have enough supervision on the playground. They've been paras in preschool and TK when we didn't have those positions filled. They've been there to build relationships in small group settings with kids who have a whole host of needs, and you know the population in our district. But what I don't see in that LCAP are specific actions that will address student achievement. Specific recommendations made at LCAP are not listed there in a way that I can see support for me and my students going into August. We also did not have an opportunity to look at the budget, look at what items cost and where we could cut or add or supplement as we have in years past. That was a big concern this year. I hope to see going forward in August that there are specific actions. I will pick intervention teachers that will support students and help teachers with the academic achievement of our students. Thank you.
I'll be starting with 4C, general consent. I found it very interesting that for the Wellness Together, you have now a justification letter, Dr. Sparks. He has to justify it. I don't know if that's now mandated, an unfunded mandate that you have to do, but it kind of says the same thing that you said before. Also on this one justification, it says that the Wellness Together Inc. will diligently spent and the vendor held accountable to performance and results. And my question is to whom? I haven't seen anything that's been transparent so far given to the board. Also, another justification is the National Conflict Resolution Center. And just like the teacher said before us, teachers are quite happy with the restorative justice. They get in-service after in-service after in-service, but they find it's not practical, it doesn't work. So they just go back and do the hardest that they can with the less that you've been giving them. It also says that the NCRC will provide periodic reports to be shared with the Board of Education. I have not seen any of that at your school board meetings. Again, restorative justice, talking with the community and teachers, it's not working the way you're doing it. It's just not working. It's great on paper. Again, the words, I've looked the past couple of years that you have it. There's been different tiers that has not been completed in here. It also mentions about the action items of what you're going to do. It also mentions State of California ethnic studies, model curriculum. So that'll be interesting how that's going to be in the mix as far as your restorative practices, restorative justice and all that. Also, another question that was asked was SBB, your social worker, and I know the question was asked, is it going to be Spanish speaker? And I know the Department of DEI has no Spanish speakers there for 60% of our Latino population, which is, we know Maria deals with the LGBT population, which she said on this dais, who's dealing with our Spanish speaker? Not only the kids, but especially the parents, like the ones at Libby School that you had to deal with time and time again because of the tort claim, because they couldn't get any action. Thank you for putting in a different experienced principal, and hopefully he can turn that school around. Also, general consent, the ISPP, the preschool program. I had addressed that last year, and I asked Raquel, were they going to get some input, because it mentioned that the board had room for input on there. Well, I looked at this year's, and it mentioned that the May meetings, the May school board meeting, that the board would have an opportunity to ask questions and provide feedback for improvement. I looked at the May agenda, you had nothing on there. Again, the LCAP, I appreciate the teachers' insight, what hasn't been given in the classroom, what's been given for SEL and all that, but it's not given for the academic, which is number one in LCAP. Thank you. Thank you.
So, we have this one. Thank you.
We have a total of 7 comments. Our first 2 speakers will be Letitia Helper and Janice Halawa.
Good evening, I'm Letitia Pellman. Did everybody get a copy of this handout? Okay, this one I turned in my car, I turned in a copy of this. So, does everybody have it now? Okay, great. So, I actually went to Oceanside High School, the old one downtown, and then I went to the second one after that. I was in the first group of people who went there. Now, I'm an attorney now, and I live in Oceanside part of the time. And actually, it gave me a great visual aid here, this sign that's up when something else isn't up. And when it tells people that these are norms for board meetings, you'll see, I gave you something that tells you that the definition of norm, right, is basically, it's on the second page, an authoritative standard, a principle of right action binding upon members of a group. So this sign is intended to be binding on members of the people who come here. This is actually a violation of people's constitutional free speech rights. You can't tell members of the public that they have to use respectful language. They don't have to. You can't tell them they have to be respectful of all speakers. They don't have to. When you respect a speaker who came and called you all Nazis, you might not respect that person. You probably wouldn't say anything about it, but you can't tell people to have respect when they don't have it. So you can't tell people not to cause disruptions. People cannot do things that disrupt a meeting in a certain legal way. But somebody might say something that causes people in the audiences to react, to cheer or to clap. That's not a disruption that the speaker intentionally caused. So I would ask you to change the sign and remove the things that are actually a violation of people's constitutional right. If you want to say, and say, adhere to time limits, okay. The Brown Act is really clear what can be done. This is not the only thing that I have unfortunately observed that the school board is doing that's not lawful. And I'll talk about that in another meeting. I don't want to take too much time, but simply don't tell people they have to use respectful language. Don't tell them we have to respect everybody. Thank you very much.
Hello, I'm an educational consultant. I'm making public comment because I can't unknow what I know. And it does not seem like all Oceanside Unified students are being provided with equitable access to education, particularly socioeconomically disadvantaged students, English language learners, and students with disabilities. To give one example, in regards to the CAS testing, during the 2022-23 school year, at Libby Elementary, just over 25% met or exceeded the standard in English language arts. While this is a low percentage, 0% of students with disabilities and only 5.41% of English language learners met or exceeded the standards. In math, nearly 20% of students met or exceeded the CAS standards. While this is also a low percentage, only 3.23% of students with disabilities and 5.41% of English language learners met or exceeded the CAS standards. And while I understand the need for school-based mental health counseling services, and I very much support restorative justice practices, in retaining Wellness Together for over $319,000 and National Conflict Resolution Center for over $207,000, it seems like the district is focused on outside providers versus on investing in your teachers and other staff who directly provide education and supports and services to students on a day-to-day basis, including providing all teachers, given the demographics, with training and supporting multilingual learners and students with disabilities. Moreover, the budget and spending of taxpayer dollars does not seem to be focused on improving the education for all students. As I have a few minutes, I'd also like to say that the after-school programs at the elementary school during this past school year were not all equal. Like some, like FUSAT would have extracurricular, they would do sport and have more homework support, whereas in Libby School, they didn't do any support and they didn't give the students any academic support. And so I hope this year there'll be more fair treatment of the different elementary schools, and that all, especially for for elementary schools where there's a large amount of socioeconomically disadvantaged students, and English multilingual learners. They particularly need to have more before and after school support. So I hope that we'll see this. Thank you.
Next three speakers, Nancy Nez, Rosie Higuera, and Beth Forno.
Good evening. I would just like to address something that involves my character, my integrity that occurred after the last board meeting on 6/13/2024. I was sent this letter by your legal team, and you all received it, a copy of it, which I think is very unfair. 2 days after the school board meeting, I was sent this from your legal team. The most disturbing thing was the amount of unfactual lies and grossly exaggerated statements targeted at a group of us who were just freely walking onto the parking lot. However, I was the only one singled out. All this did was use more of our tax-paying dollars to pay your attorney to send me this letter, as well as it created more division and animosity between the school board and the public people. Shame on you, that's wrong. This letter attacked my character, I felt. It also was intended to threaten and intimidate me, but luckily I serve a God who is much higher than the threats of man. All of us, hold on, with my time, I gotta get this in. This small incident could have been resolved between the parties involved. After all, we attend and worship at the same house of God. In regards to medical information, I took an oath as an RN, and that was to protect our children and patients, people in accidents on the road. I urge all of you to view this movie that we watched at our Grace Action team last night at our church. It's called Gender Transformation, The Untold Realities. It is shocking. It is a shocking, shocking movie. Many of us in this room watched it last night. I personally asked you to watch this, and I would be shocked to know that any of you would continue to support the LGBT agenda in our public schools after viewing this film. Lord help us. All of us are living on borrowed time. Our lives are just a dot on the line of eternity. We will all need to give an account of what we did and didn't do. This should be a sobering thought for all of you. Thank you.
So I would like to talk about a memo that was dated March 10th, 2023. It is a review of the geotechnical investigation prepared by NTGL Incorporated for Reynolds Elementary School demolition and replacement, number 815-736. This is from a registered professional engineer and former OUSD engineer of record. The review is limited to the liquefaction findings of the subject report. In reading the report, I found it to be highly professional and only relevant to the construction of new school from 1 to 2 stories after the existing building were demolished. This study for the new structure concludes that if ground improvements are performed and recommended on this report, that structures can be supported on shallow spread footings with foundations bearing entirely on improved ground or compacted. Alternatively, deep foundations may be used to support the structures. In other words, it's not a 911 situation to build a new school at this site, but we know that is now not the district's intent. So this is Reynolds Elementary, as you well know. 4 schools have been closed under Superintendent Bill Vitale's watch. That is Ocean Shores, Pacifica, Garrison, and Reynolds. The kids from Reynolds were transferred to Passat and Libby. The authorized closure of Reynolds was signed by Mike Blessing. So why are we closing all of these schools for our children? Could it be perhaps that Julie Vitale wants a $40 million new district office. I don't see how that helps our students. All I see is that since you've been here, Ms. Vitale, our grades have gone down, our schools have closed, and our community has suffered. You have been hostile to our community, to our parents, to our taxpayers. Our children and our community deserve far greater than your leadership. It's time for new leadership. Thank you.
Good evening, Trustee Evans. I'm a constituent in your district, and on June 6th, I emailed you asking if you were okay with the pride flag being raised at the district office. I have yet to hear from you, so I'm assuming, I know it was voted on last year, I'm assuming you voted for it, which to me, the only flags that should fly are the U.S. flag, the state flag, and the city flag. On June 17th, I emailed you regarding the letter that Nancy Nunez was talking about, because you were CC'd on that letter, which I have from the law firm. I am bringing this up because I wanted to speak to you as your constituent and give you my version of the story of what happened out front. And for those that don't know, Oceanside Unified spent $1 million retainer for this lawyer. So you have used that money against us. Let's clarify. Every evening after these meetings, there are those of us that are usually last leaving the meeting. Todd Madison was taking out his video recording, and we were all sitting outside. But what was said in the letter? Following the conclusion of the meeting, approximately 8:10, two district employees, a male administrator, Dr. Lawrence, huge man, and a staff employee, Ms. Gibbons, were walking to their cars in the middle of the night, the parking lot at night by themselves. Okay, so it wasn't dark yet, and you weren't by yourselves. We were all out there talking, and I was talking to my husband and Todd Madison. A group of at least 5 people, including yourself, which is Nancy, who appeared to be waiting for the female employee, saw 2 district employees approach and ultimately interrupt them as they walked by. That is not what happened. I heard Nancy talking to someone who seemed like a friend, because I believe she knows you, and said, let's not do that. Let's just take it down, stop it. Nancy then aggressively confronted the female support staff. I'm not sure what aggressive is, but she was telling her to stop talking. And I walked with that other person. So we are aggressive. So this is threatening demeanor is what this says. So myself, I'm a middle-aged woman. I believe Emily Wishman was there, and Patty Kay and Nancy. So you're telling me Dr. Lawrence, and you felt threatened? Okay, so it says that we followed you to a car, which we did not. We stopped on the sidewalk. We did not yell obscenities. I don't think she called you demeaning. What I find interesting is the only person that received this was Nancy. And you go to church with her. That is bullying. That is why we have a problem with this school district. This could have been fixed. You do not set a good example. I am ashamed. Counterfeit Christian. Absolutely.
Patty Kay, Emily Richmond, and Patty Sigmund.
Okay, following up just real quickly, Dr. Sparks, it was kind of interesting. You were giving the presentation on the LCAP. You were standing here with your back to the audience, so I wonder how you know who was talking, like you insinuated certain people were. There's no way. You're facing forward. All right, our tax dollars pay for your salaries, and they pay for the attorney hired by the district. So please explain then, why can the attorney who we pay for and turn around and file against the taxpayer who pays his salary? That doesn't make sense. Why can't the attorney that we pay for work for us instead of against us? Who authorized this letter? is? This needless letter, whoever authorized, used taxpayer money needlessly. Your own policy, number 1313, states, behavior of students or staff that is intimidating, including bullying, is prohibited and subject to discipline. In my opinion, that applies to you. Your policy, follow your own policy. Since this letter to Nancy is not factual, does not include names, does not give the author of the points presented, it surely must be meant for intimidation. I request that Nancy be able to use the same attorney because Nancy pays the attorney's salary. When for her own representation, since these accusations in this letter violate your own policy number 1313. Thank you.
A couple of items weren't on the agenda was the data that I had asked about. And surely, Dr. Sparks, I know there's plenty of data out there. There's tons of data. It's not misinformation. It's all here. Accountability plan, plan after plan. What I was getting at is it's never in a form where our board can look at it, compare one year to another year. What this is, Raquel said she's been looking at stats, so I wish you would share that with all of us because I think it's so important that, especially since the superintendent has not been evaluated this spring and maybe a year, it's been a year in the spring that she's not been validated. And this is great information that you need to be held accountable, to give her raises, not a Me Too raise, but a raise. And that's what you as a school board that does. She is the controller, gets things done. And I think without somebody with a leadership like that, nothing's going to get done. If you look at our test scores and you look at the way the LCAP is handled, yeah, this is great stats. 77% minorities. Also, too, when I asked about a Spanish speaker, I know we have Spanish speakers, but are they in-house or are they contracts? Before we had in-house, whereas it's not like the lady, Miss Gomez from Libby School, when she came to the district office and turned in a complaint, it was in Spanish. So Miss Ann Gibbons said, can you do this in English? How insulting. If you had an in-house person and not a contract later, which I know, I want to call her Olga, that's Olga's daughter, is right there. And so we need to have that availability. And if you have 5 there, is it contract or is it in-house? And that makes a real difference as far as school family. Again, we have 77.2% minority in our district, and that needs to be really looked at, along with the number 1 is academics. And so I think in plans to come, you need to put that in a form where our board members can see the progress. Because I want progress. We're not here just to complain about how bad everything is. We want progress. We want to see those little steps, because there are going to be little steps to get our kids going. So I would like to see that as we had it many years ago. We had that. We had charts. We had data. We looked at it, and it was great to see where we're coming from, because it's tough. We know our kids is tough. We know it's tough out there for our kids. So we want to be able to see that as a community, to say, look, this is what we have, and this is where we're going, and this is what I want for our kids and for our districts. It's the best that we can give it, and I think without data that's readable, that our school board can really understand and go from there. And it's part of your job to make sure that they understand where they're going and what you're going to go do to help them and to, again, to better their lives. So I'm sure I'll see you on Saturday at the parade. I will be there with my little 1937 Chevy, waving at everybody, so hopefully you'll be there too. Thanks.
So, in regards to that, real quick. Okay, in regards to that, you did say that it's for the board to see, and so we did see it. We've got a lot of information that they put it honestly side by side for us to see, because we did ask for that, so we've asked for like for the last few years, of saying like what that data looks like, because it's not just for us to see, but we wanted the LCAP to see also, so the people that were in the LCAP committee, they were able to see that, because between Dr. Smedley and Dr. Sparks, we were able to compare a lot of the stuff that was going on, and a lot of the great things that we were able to see was that we can see with the new curriculum, because the curriculum was outdated 20 years for a lot of it. So now with the new curriculum coming in and the changes of the new curriculum and how outdated it was and how behind our kids were, because I can honestly say for my kid, from one step to another, because the curriculum being so outdated, we can go back and we can look now that they have the information that they need and the staff has what they need to do what they need to do for our students. It's happening. So we are looking at it and we are seeing it as important. So I know we asked for a lot of stuff, and like I said, they are showing it in LCAP, so it is out there. The information, the data is out there, because it is something that is readily available for us in the moment to just go and ask. There's meetings being held constantly, because as a board, we do have questions. Sometimes we're in the weeds too much, unfortunately, because we step out of the helicopter, because we want to know, because we are parents still in this community. So that information is out there, so just so you know that it is there. We are getting the comparisons of the good and the bad, but again, the iReady is one of those greatest tools that I can honestly say as a parent, that it's one of those things that we can look at as teachers, as staff, as admins, for the executive committee, to look at it and say, like, this is what's going on, and then we can work with that student before they move forward. So we're not having that thing, because like, in all honesty, like I'll tell you that my biggest thing right now is that everybody is doing at grade level by third grade, so that we're at that point, and so we're pushing, and I can honestly say that our staff is doing an amazing job at getting those students where they need to be, because we've put the stuff out there, we've given them the information and the curriculum that they need to be able to do this, and they're doing the work. And it's hard, it's not easy, it is so difficult, because you have combo classes, because you have students that need so much more social emotional support. The staff is going above and beyond. So I have to just, unfortunately, go to this point of saying that like, we are getting the data, and I applaud everybody out there, and our staff is not here because they're on break, because they so need it. But for the unit to share out with them that like they are doing the work, and it's there, and the proof is in the data that we get constantly, because we do get it a lot of times updated, because they want us to know, because we ask the information and we ask the questions. So it is there, just know that we are looking at it, and we are holding people accountable, because it's not always what we want, and it's not, and as a past board member, specifically that things don't happen, unfortunately, at the rate that we want it to happen. And, because I'm that person that I want change now, and now I want it, and it used to be now, but it doesn't work that way, unfortunately. So, again, everybody is working so hard, and our students are doing amazing in this school district. As much as it may not seem like they are going above and beyond, and they're doing it not only academically, but they're doing it socially and emotionally, and they're doing amazing things, and they're out there in that community, and we have so many more students coming back to serve in this community, and coming back and working on our staff, and that's great to see, because they want to continue to give back what they were given, and to continue to give back to the kids, and to their own nieces and nephews, and everybody else that's in this community. So that is a great thing to see, and so I applaud our staff. I get that we want more Spanish speakers. I'm all about that. That's always my question. Do they speak Spanish? Always my question. Because that's what needs to happen, because that's what we need in this community. So please understand it. We hear you. I hear you. We understand, and we are fighting, and we're doing what we can to best serve this community in the way that they should and will be. Zero. Sorry. Sorry, go ahead.
All right, thank you. In reviewing the instances of this school board, why are there so many secrets from parents? Number two, you are absolutely not looking out for our innocent children, nor do you have respect for the parents. I'm not worried about what the kids are learning as much as, and what they're doing, as what you are not doing. So therefore, I do not trust your get books in the library for middle schoolers to see and read. Don't try to tell the parents that you protect our kids. You don't. Number 4, you do not deserve your paychecks or respect by any of us when you fail us and our children. We are holding you accountable. Number 5, why should parents have to opt out to prevent our kids from seeing the filth in these books? You just got to saying, they are what they see. And you've got trash in your library for them to see. I am ashamed of those that do not stand up. My husband and I are Marines, and thank God we stand up because you don't. Number 6, our goal is to remove all the school board members who have voted approving not to inform parents. And in past history, we know the groups that did that before. We see every one of you, and I'm very disappointed. Thank you.
Lorraine Sigmund and Allison Minnie.
Good evening, everybody. This is good evening. This is very interesting. We hear the parents and citizens, concerned citizens of Oceanside, talking about issues that come at all different levels. And I'm trying to figure out, okay, why is our tax money not being used wisely? Let me go into a few. I'm going to try and follow these rules here so that I don't get in trouble here. So, Robert's Rules of Order is I notice when you're bringing up issues, you make a motion and then you vote on it, and you don't say all. You say all in favor, aye, and then all opposed. There was no all opposed. You didn't take no vote on who's opposing. And after you make the motion, that's when you go into discussion. You don't just have a bunch of talking and then say, okay, let's have a motion. If I'm out of line here, go ahead and tell me. I think I'm speaking nicely. So let's follow the rules here. I can remember when I was growing up and I raised my kids and how I taught them. I remember when I was at school, I used some words that my dad used at home that he knows, that word wasn't good to use. And so I caught my accountability at school. And then when I got home, I got accountability at home too. Because the teacher, I got my dunce hat on, I got to stand in the corner, and everybody was at recess, and then I was held accountable. And when I grew up, that's how the school worked together. The teachers and the parents worked together. When something happened at school with the child, the parents knew about it that evening when they got home, and taking care of business, raising the kids. Okay, so none of the secret stuff is done. I'm not going to order it down on the So I can tell you, I never ended up in the back of the squad car. So and I've got over 55 or 6 decades of life here. All right, now, then the other area is who is allowed in the schools, our tax money again. Well, why are we letting different age groups into that grade level? If he or she is 20 years old and they're in 8th grade, they're coming from another country or coming from another state, you bring them into the school. Okay? I'm not sure if that's happening too much, but our tax money is being spent on people that shouldn't be in that school in the first place. If they're not ready to go to the next grade level, they should be held back and get held over. So we're not just pushing them through, and then when they're 18, they're supposed to be ready for the world. But we're too busy doing social stuff, and that's the problem. No time for social stuff. We should stick to the basic fundamentals of patriotism and serving our country and our community. Thank you.
Good evening. I wanted to read Mr. Jordy Sparks, Director of DEI.
He quoted on his little post here, just wrapped up a year 19 of working and serving in public schools, and as happens each year for me, I'm convinced that local public schools are the lifeblood of our communities and our society at large. The impact of public schools, whether negative or positive, can be felt and witnessed through a neighborhood or a community, a city, a state, beyond. I'm still convinced, and no disrespect to other professions, that teaching and working and educating in public schools is the greatest and most important profession. You're correct, as it is extremely important for our future generations that you get it straight and get it right. What I don't agree with is what you decided to write in the next couple lines. And for a number of years now, I've seen that sentiment challenged, tested, and in some cases eroded by people who want to see schools go backwards rather than forwards. But the haters fail to realize that schools progress alongside society. And I've seen hate-filled, bigoted, fearful, and misplaced attacks thrown at schools, educators, educational leaders, and systems in the name of political agendas, religion, quote, what's best for kids, unquote, election ignorance, you name it. And my team and I have stayed the course and focused on knowledge over noise with our eyes on what's best. Nearly 16,000 students in Oceanside. Yeah, remember that number, 16,000 in this district. And I think that what you said towards the end here is hate-filled, because you're speaking about myself as a parent in the district. Oh yeah, that's what you're trying to say here. Me attending these school boards is being bigoted and hate-filled, disrespectful, unprofessional, grotesque. These are my people. I'm so thankful that they are here giving their time, that you guys have eroded by having us come here at 5 o'clock instead of giving us time as, parents here in this district. We can't even make these meetings. I barely even was able to make it today. I have kids out on summer break, busy mama. I'm tired of y'all's little attitudes towards we the people, okay? And yeah, you serve we the people. But I did see that Mr. Sparks at Libby School decided to just walk away, never coming and engaging with our Latino families wanting answers that day that they held a protest, one of a couple different protests. Yet I saw Mr. Sparks at an LGBTQ Unicorn Homes event engaging.
At this time, we will call this meeting adjourned at 6:47. Thank you.